Hey there, everyone. It's Dawn DelVecchio coming to you live from Sedona on a cloudy day. And I titled this live video, let's see. Oh, I can read it here on my thing. Reflections on International Women's Day, Toxic Masculinity, and the Return of the Goddess. So I'm not 100% sure what it is that's going to come through, but I wanted to address this topic. So I'm just going to connect in and see what's important to bring forward about this. Hey, Heather. Hi. Good to see you here. Okay, so I'm behind on this whole International Women's Day commentary. And I think mostly because on Friday I was in a very different space. I didn't really come online much. I had had a ceremony the night before here at my place. And I was really being the priestess in my temple. My husband was away doing sacred healing men's work. So I had the place to myself, and I was pretty much in a prayer meditative state. So I didn't really connect with like the international scene or like what's going on in the world. But I really enjoyed some of the beautiful, beautiful posts that different people shared for International Women's Day. One in particular stands out at the moment in my mind from my friend Jessie, who did a beautiful honoring of her mother and how her mother is her hero and all of that. So and there were other women who did that as well. And I just really want to thank all of you who did do some beautiful posts. And it really got me reflecting on the times that we are in, as I do anyway, and what's called for here. What's the message? What's important for us to carry with us for any of these events that go on, whether it's International Women's Day, whether it's a big event on the planet of some kind, whether it's a crisis, an astrological transit, a series of geological events. What's the important pieces for us? How can we take whatever that piece is that's out there in the collective and bring it into our being and alchemically transmute it, activate it in a way that what we end up uploading to the collective is healing for the collective. It's we're offering so that we can offer a frequency of love or above, offer a frequency of love light for the collective. So let's take this to now the theme. So International Women's Day is a wonderful reflection of how far we have come as a human family from the days of the witch burnings, from the era where the feminine was not just denigrated as meaningless or unimportant, but actually defiled and vilified. But of course, we know that that's somewhat superficial planetarily, and in some countries, we don't even get the benefit of, women don't even get the benefit of a superficial acknowledgement of their value. So it's a big step, and it's an important step, and I think it's worthy of honoring International Women's Day. And let us not whitewash the issues at hand, which are that on this planet right now, women's lib is mostly reserved for Western women and white-skinned women, and that our privilege is not something that we should take lightly, but rather that we should leverage in a way to give voice to what the healing that needs to happen planetarily for women of all colors, all races, all ages. Right? What happens to old women in Western culture? Oh my gosh, so little respect for the wise women elders. I don't want to go down too far of a tangent there. Hi, everyone who's joining. Thank you. Lorraine, hi, cousin. Good to have you here. Blessings to you. Okay, and so International Women's Day, it is a good step, it is a big step, and we must remember that it is just a step. And that in many ways it is a it could fall prey to superficial whitewashing as see, we are honoring women. So we have to go deeper. And I want to remind myself right now in that my goal is not to upload rage to the collective, but to recognize that rage sometimes has to happen, to transmute it alchemically within so that we can upload love to the collective. So we have to look at the nature of toxic masculinity. And I want to look at it from the broader, bigger perspective, as I like to do, not from down in the battlefield, but up from the bigger perspective. That we have been living on a planet that has been dominated by the masculine, in the guise of men mostly, yes, but the masculine principles. So rationality, disconnection from sensitivity and emotional states, dishonoring of the emotion, dishonoring and denigrating of the receptivity, the intuitive, the feeling states, the feminine principles. So what does that mean? If we value the masculine to the point of denigrating the feminine, what we have is unbalanced. And what we see in toxic masculinity are men who've run amok in war and women who support that. What we see are women climbing the corporate ladder and stabbing other sisters in the back. What we see are things like the witch burnings in Europe in the early Renaissance. Not really the late Middle Ages, the early Renaissance, you know, the Reformation and the great reflowering of civilization and culture. Yeah. Thousands, tens of thousands of women and children were burned at the stake, killed, hung, drowned for being witches. And that's not the only place in the world, you know. So toxic masculinity from the bigger perspective, is not just about men versus women. It's about the masculine principle out of control, out of balance, because there's no feminine balance in there. Because the feminine got so denigrated. So if we look at it this way, let me do an illustration. We've got two principles that we, in this world that seems dualistic, in this three-dimensional world, we are living in, you know, black, white, up, down, night, day, summer, winter, all of that. And we also have masculine and feminine and women and men. So what happened in the era of the beginnings of dominator culture and patriarchal culture is that the masculine got outweighed over the feminine. So then that became, you know, so you've got this rise of the valuation of masculine principles, and men embody the physical representation of masculine principles much more than women. But they do have feminine within them, just like women have masculine within us. But because of this extreme devaluation of the feminine and elevation of the masculine, of course, what it became is a hierarchy and a separation such that feminine, anything that's deemed feminine is the realm of women. Anything deemed masculine is a realm of men. And then we have, you know, war and rape and pillage and men who can't feel, men who are told to man up, to boys don't cry, to show your manhood by beating up that other person over there, and all of this toxic, painful thing that has been painful to men and to women, to the human family. It has been a toxic, poisonous thing. So my desire is not to blame men, although men have often been in the roles of perpetrator, because when you set up a system like that, of course, that's what's going to happen. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? But of course, we also know that sometimes men who have perpetrated, like, you know, the battle for hegemony in kings was often the fires were stoked by the women behind the throne, right? So I don't want to blame men, even though we know that much suffering has been at the hands of men because they were forced into that role, pressed, ganged into war, you know, you name it, shamed into being aggressive, being alpha, being dominating, being warring, etc. And I also don't want to blame women, but we know that in this toxic culture, women have also perpetrated much cruelty toward other women, much psychological toxicity toward their sons, And I'm not a therapist. I can't talk on that in an expert way, but we are living in the time of Google and YouTube. So do the research. It's not very hard to find. So I don't want to belabor that. I just needed to bring it up to just kind of lead into what I wanted to share here, which has to do with what I would call the return of the goddess. Now, some of you might say, well, goddess, what's that? And some of you might say, oh, the goddess, yeah, she's, I believe in the goddess as the goddess Tara. That's who's behind me here, Tara. Or Mother Mary, or Kali, or Pele. If you're on Hawaii, you'll be familiar with that goddess. So I want to talk about the goddess, not so much in her personifications, her archetypal personifications as, let's say Kali the destroyer, or Lakshmi the abundant one, or Kuan Yin the compassionate, or Isis the mother. All of those have value, and I have found that over my 30 plus years of working with goddess archetypes that they were essential for the rise of the goddess within to awaken within women. And so I'm not dismissing that, but I'm just talking about the goddess in a different capacity here, which is the reawakening of the divine feminine frequency within us all, within women and within men. And how important that is at this time. How very important it is for us, particularly if you are a woman, because you are embodying that archetypal frequency, walking through the world in a feminine body. How important it is for us to honor our feminine aspect, which has to do with receptivity, intuition, receiving. Think about even the act of sexuality between women and men, right? We get to receive and be penetrated by the masculine energy. And you could see that as literal and simplistic, or you could see that on the energetic level, that in the dance, the sacred dance within each of us, of the feminine and masculine, we need a balance of the receptivity, the intuition, the relaxing into, the compassionate space of allowing, and the focused intent, the directiveness, the penetrativeness, the mind, thought, focused intent of the masculine. And when we have those in some semblance of balance within, as women and men, we can bring about a different kind of planet, a different relationship with the earth, a different relationship with each other, a different relationship with ourselves. So to me, when I look upon something like International Women's Day, what I see is not a rally cry to battle against the sexist oppressors. Please, we were doing that in the 70s and 80s. It didn't get us very far, right? I mean, we still see what's going on here. That's not what International Women's Day is for me. For me, what I see this as is as an invitation for women and men to go, this is my chance to look within at where I am wounded by toxic masculinity and wounded by toxic femininity, which comes out differently in the culture, comes out more sideways typically. Because if you don't have direct access to power, you go sideways. So I'm not saying it's just toxic masculine and these pure like feminine energies within. No, the toxicity goes both ways. So International Women's Day, look at this. We are honoring the feminine now. Excellent. Let me take a stance. Let me look at how I can honor the feminine, and also what within me, what in my actions, in my community, in my energetic field, in my thought processes, can I take within and really look at how am I being sort of toxic or unbalanced or unforgiving, wounded around that frequency, heal it, transmute it, and offer up to the collective a more balanced, harmonious love frequency, an invitation to that divine feminine energy, the goddess energy, to awaken within me and with all of us and within all of us. So those are my, thank you, Doug. Thank you for the feedback on the points, my dear divine masculine husband. So with that, let's see, I'm just going to connect in and notice if there's anything else I want to share right now. Just again, the invitation to, whenever something arises for you, whether it, especially in this message, is about gender and the feminine masculine energy. So let's just stay right with that for a moment. Whenever anything arises for you with regard to sexist oppression, toxic femininity, masculinity, the revelations of sexual abuse in Hollywood, like we've seen it, right? This is last summer, Venus retrograde in Scorpio, Harvey Weinstein, and all this other, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the power plays that oppress the feminine. When that stuff comes up, and it will, you may have it in your personal life. You may be experiencing a loved one who's experienced rape or something, or an abusive spouse or whatever. It's important that you acknowledge and allow the process of your own feelings to run through. So if you feel rage, rage. You all, if you've listened to me before, you know I have the styrofoam bat. Why do I have a styrofoam bat? Because every once in a while I need to beat the crap out of my bed with the bat to get out some anger that's bubbling inside of me. So allow yourself that. Allow yourself to feel whatever you need to feel. And remember that is just, that's like to get it out of the way so that you can go to what the real work is. And the real work is, how can I take this in my own life, take it into the cauldron of my eternal wisdom self, and transmute this old, toxic, non-functional, feminine, masculine, out of balance, and turn it into a love frequency to share with the collective. How do I heal it within? To put it very simply, that's the goal. So if you need to rage, rage. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to be outraged, outrage. But I would invite you, before you get out there and start marching against anything, what can you do first to transmute it within yourself, heal it within yourself sufficiently to offer love, to pour love into the situation, to upload love to the collective? Because that's what's the game changer, sisters and brothers. That is what the game changer is. It's not to rage against, but to see it, express what needs to be expressed, transmute it, and offer love instead. So with that, I will say au revoir for now, and much love to each of you. May you feel the blessings of the return of the goddess in your hearts. May we all remember her and remember that piece of ourselves within. Much, much love until the next time I'm inspired to share something. Mwah. Bye for now.